Good evening and welcome to Coach World TV. My name is Terry Yoffe, and tonight as my guest I have Greg Monaco. Hi Greg.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Great. I am so happy to have Greg on my show tonight. I'm kind of going to give you a little bit of how I met him. ICF NYC and an organization called HR New York got together and collaborated on an event back in May, and we called upon Greg and his team at Quantum Lead to do an event for us that day. And Greg is one of the founding partners of Quantum Lead. So we are going to start there and then get into his other profession, which is a leadership consultant with Quantum Lead, and he also does brand development with his company Monaco Lang. So, little introduction.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great.
Doing great.
So, Greg, tell us about Quantum Lead. I was so fascinated by the workshop that you and Greta and Jane and John did that it really fascinated me. So tell us a little bit about Quantum Lead and what's the philosophy and what's it about?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. So Quantum Lead is a leadership development organization, and what makes it a little different is that we are interested in developing conscious leaders. So those are people who are interested in bettering themselves, their organizations, and the world. And so what you experienced with that brief introduction was our key product, which is peer leadership forums. So we just kind of gave you guys a taste of what it's like to experience a Quantum Lead forum. So we deliver on conscious leadership through peer group forums.
So tell us about conscious leadership, because Lord knows in today's business world we're hoping that more leaders become conscious, and obviously what the ramifications are for bettering themselves, their people, and their organization.
Yeah. Well, I think, a good way to understand conscious leadership is I think all of us have at some point in our lives seen unconscious leadership in action.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen leaders, berate employees, stand on tables and yell at clients. I've seen leaders, throw DVDs across a room, in anger. And those are like glaring examples, but those are people who are who lead through fear-based mentality. And what we want to do is we want to shift that. We think it's about time that people became more conscious and aware of the ripple effects that they have with themselves, their families, their employees, and their organizations, and really on the planet.
Yeah, and what about those leaders that don't have that outward drama, but still lead unconsciously, that they don't take their greatest assets, which are their people, into consideration, and take advantage or control or manipulate or are unfair? How do you get to these people to maybe wake them up a little bit to what's possible?
Great question, and I think that's really the power of coaching. Is we have as part of the leadership group in Quantum Lead, we have two coaches, Jane Gumpel and Greta Cowan. Right. And those two individuals, they are like radiologists. They can help. First off, somebody has to want to be helped.
Yes.
Or wants to see a path for themselves for some kind of development. But they are able to expose the blind spots and help leaders see what they don't see in themselves. So and I think that's really what it comes down to with the whole idea of conscious leadership, is just being more aware of what you're doing and who you are. Right. So that would be the first step, is just getting that sort of awareness of what you're up to, what you're really up to.
So, do you go out and mine for clients who, you might, your wish list of people that you would love to work with, or or do clients come to you where a leader might be thinking, I'm not doing all I could be doing. I think there's other ways of being.
Well, like I said, our product is peer group forums. So what we do is we put, for example, we have a CEO forum, and we put these C-level executives together in a group, and we feel like this is the fastest way for development to happen, is having a guided, facilitated interaction with people who are in similar situations as they are, so they can relate to one another on the same level, and they can feed off of one another. So peer group forums, I mean, it's proven how powerful peer group forums can be, but with that layer of conscious development, consciousness, where we bring practices of mindfulness, sustainability, well-being, and positive leadership, we bring those pillars into that conversation, it really becomes rocket fuel for the leaders. So we look after C-level executives. There's another peer group forum we have, they're called key groups, and those are people who would be reporting to these C-level executives. So those key group people, we have forums for them, and we have actually like special interest forums. So, for example, we're having conversations with a large holding company about how to, the problem they're having is they have a lot of women who are leaving the workforce, very talented women leaving the workforce. So how do we keep women involved in the workforce? It's a huge gap that's happening right now. How do we keep them involved in the workforce? So developing a forum, we're talking about developing a specific forum for women's issues in the workplace. So there are many ways that we can develop these forums.
So the little sneak peek that you gave us at that mini workshop was what you do with the peers, where you get them together. And how long is that a course? Is that a one-shot deal? How does that work?
It's a year-long program. And the way it works is we meet with the leaders once a month for 6 hours on a day. And we come together 6 hours on a day, and we work together. What you experienced was really how we open up the practice, which is we actually do a short meditation, which really helps people just be present to what's going to be happening in the room. And we, depending on what direction we're taking the group, we will develop a custom plan through the year. So we will have certain provocative questions we'll be asking. We'll be workshopping with each of the leaders. Coaching is part of the program, where Greta and Jane will work with these leaders one-on-one in between these sessions. So we think it's a great opportunity for leaders to come together with this sort of higher state.
And what have you seen as the results of some of these year-long programs?
Well, I can give you my personal experience. And we've got some testimonials on our website. But what I've noticed, excuse me, sorry about that. What I've noticed, I'm Italian, so I use my hands a lot. Is my leadership. So I'm one of the founding partners of Monaco Lang, and we're a brand consultancy. And we have a lot of employees at Monaco Lang. So what I noticed was, when I became a more conscious leader, I noticed a lot of things happening within the walls of my business that weren't there before. People were a lot more involved and empowered to make decisions. we saw, I mean, really the bottom line of the whole thing is that we saw increased profits based on the work of understanding how to lead consciously, understanding how to relate to employees better, understanding how to engage and inspire them, and just, you know, understanding, helping them see that the business isn't there just to be a business. The business is there to actually do something and make a difference. And that, in and of itself, has made a tremendous improvement. So I have, obviously, I drank the Kool-Aid since I'm
no,
one of the partners
that
of
is so important. I mean, you and I were talking at dinner. I get a lot of articles that come across, you know, emails, and I always get something about conscious listening, what makes up a good leader, being aware, self-aware, and I guess what we were talking about ties into emotional intelligence, where self-aware is the first step. How well do you know yourself? And then how well do you know others? And how can you tune into others? And, you know, listen so they're heard. And certainly there's got to be a lot of data, research, about the difference that mindful and conscious leaders provide and what it does to their companies versus companies that don't have leaders that are conscious or self-aware.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
not.
No,
I don't know.
I mean, it's,
As far as research.
you know, when I first kind of started leaning into this perspective, again, it was more of a personal pursuit. I was interested in my own development and what the impact I was having on people, and I think, you know, what you know, seeing it's hard to, when you're in the thick of things. It's hard to see how you're being in the world. And now that I've had an opportunity to see the progress and the kinds of things, the kinds of positive impacts that this kind of perspective offers, you just can't go back. And it's, you know, conscious leadership has almost become a cliche right now. You see it so often right now. But it's for real. And what's interesting to me about what's happening in the space is, you know, like 5 years ago, not many people were talking about yoga and you know, doing yoga in the office and meditation. Now it's pretty much common practice to be talking about this. So there's been a level of sort of development over the past 5 years that's really inspiring. So how do we keep moving the the needle in this respect is interesting to me, and I think the forums are really a great way to make that happen.
Right. You look at companies that are really promoting this way of being, the Googles of the world. I don't know about the, you know, hard and true old line companies, the Fortune 500s. How many of them have gotten into it?
You'd be surprised. Yeah.
I'd be happily surprised, you know, versus a lot of the genre of the Googles or the, I don't know, Facebook or you know, social media companies that really kind of promote it in a lot of ways. But I think it's fabulous. Certainly, you know, thank you to Quantum Lead for being one of the people that, or the companies that offer something like this to company heads, so that they can start to lead in a way that encompasses so much, and in the end makes profits for the company. You know, as I talk to clients, a company is just an inanimate object, doesn't do anything. It's the people that are in the company that bring it to life. So, you know, who the people are that are bringing it to life can transform the company. And as I always say, you have to transform yourself before you can transform your company or a company.
Totally agree with that.
So,
So
And how does Quantum Lead and conscious leadership tie into, in some way, your brand development company, Monaco Lang? Is there correlations there and parallel?
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I mean, I would be the correlation, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Since I'm doing a little both here. But you know, beyond that, beyond just me, I think there's a strong tie, because with brand development, an organization has to know itself. And we help brands, we help organizations get clear on who they are and their purpose in the world.
Okay.
And we help them communicate that. With individual leaders, the same principles apply. Getting clear about who you are, what you're passionate about, and what your purpose is, and helping leaders communicate that out to employees. So the skills that I've developed over the years and being in the industry of branding have really, it's been a seamless transition, because we all, you know, I don't think anybody hasn't never heard of personal branding. I mean, that's just something that everybody knows about personal branding. Well, there is a real deep introspection that needs to happen in order for you to be clear about who you are. The same thing happens with an organization. There has to be research, and then there's strategy. So you know, I like to take these principles and bring them in and help leaders understand what it is that, you know, is their sort of prime mover in getting them you know, inspired. And because if they're not inspired, then you can't really hope that their employees will get inspired.
Right. So when you look at brand development, it's the people that pursue the brand for the company and what they want to project. So so you work with the individuals to figure out what they want to project for their company or their brand, and how they want to have it be out in the world.
Very much so. I mean, there's three facets to it. Leadership, you know, for an organizational brand, leadership is one facet. Then you've got customers and prospects, and then you've got your employees, and then you have all the factors outside of that, like, you know, acts of God and the market and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But, you know, leadership is one of those pillars in an organization that it really kind of starts from there. So
when somebody when a company, an organization, a person calls you in and says, we want to brand or rebrand our name and how we want to be viewed out in the world, how do you work with them? Do you ask them what their ideas are, what their core values are, what they're looking to project, the target or market, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So usually,
I'm just fascinated. Oh, that's our.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's our. Oh my God, we're having a little problem. Okay,
all right.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your question was, you know, if someone comes to us and says, hey, we need a new name, or how do we approach that? Well, usually clients come to us with some kind of like symptom of something not correlating.
Concept?
Well, it's a symptom of something not working in the brand. So a name isn't working, and their website isn't working. Or a lot of times companies come to us and there's been a merger or an acquisition of some kind, and they know the organizations that are coming together are you know, looking to present themselves in a new way. So there has to be some point of change or some point of discord for them to want to engage Monaco Lang. Much in the same way, in order, you know, somebody would like to join a Quantum Lead peer forum, is that they see a new future for themselves but aren't sure how to get there. So you would hire a branding company for communications. You would hire Quantum Lead for that conscious leadership development. So that's the first thing.
Right. Okay.
And then from a brand perspective, you know, there's some facets there's research, getting to know what's happening out there, taking that data, bringing it in, and you create strategy out of that. So you develop insights out of the data, and then you create strategy about, hey, this is how we want to move forward. And then you you layer creative on top of the strategy. So the creative is, okay, so we know what we want to say. How do we want to say it? And then that's when you bring in amazing writers and amazing designers and people who have the ability to translate that strategy into something very compelling. And so that's, I think that's where the magic lies in brand development. And you know, with leadership, with Quantum Lead and leadership development, some of those same things apply. You know, when you do 360s on leaders, that's just getting the data.
Right.
Then you strategize about, okay, what are the blind spots? What are the things you need to be working on? And then, you know, the creative expression. Okay, so how are you presenting yourself out there? What words are you using? That's, you know, what language? So, you know, it's in lockstep.
Right. So, just curious here, do any of the people you work with, let's say it's from Quantum Lead, could they then say, gee, I want to work with you on your brand development, or so there's a up and down, if you understand what a flow,
yeah,
you know, in either way.
That's my evil plan. Yes. Yes. Hasn't happened yet, but yes, no, it could certainly be that way.
I could definitely see, you know, segueing from one of these to the other.
Well, we're working with HR. Monaco Lang is working with HR extensively on employee engagement. So this
HR people?
HR departents.
Right.
So
okay,
we're not working exclusively. You know, the classic model is working through marketing. But we're working with HR now because HR is understanding that culture is a very important piece.
Right. Absolutely.
To embracing brand.
Right.
So
absolutely.
You know, there is a very deep correlation between the two. So yeah, I mean, that would be great to have the clients be, you know, bounce back and forth.
Right. Would be. So tell us, if you'd like to give our audience your website, if that appeals to you.
Sure.
Maybe the Quantum Lead.
Yeah, you can check out Quantum Lead at quantumleadgroup.com. And Monaco Lang, you can just go to monacolang.com, and that's MONACO like the country, Lang, LANGE.com.
Great.
And yeah, enjoy.
It was such a great experience, really, at the little mini event you did. I was very fascinated by it. So, where did you get your start? Where did Greg Monaco start from? Oops.
Well,
I think that's me.
I don't know. Could be me.
No, it's me. It's okay.
Well, how far back do you want to go?
Your career. Let's not go all the way back, because I know you hail from Florida.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where I started my career, and I worked for a creative ad shop in Tampa, Florida, called Shirley Hutchinson Creative Works. And a great small ad shop. Had a couple of really creative guys at the helm. John Shirley and Jim Hutchinson, and really they left an indelible impression on me as leaders and as creatives, and relentless pursuit of creative perfection. Those guys, I really enjoyed my time. We would spend writing radio spots up until like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I worked there for a number of years and took my knowledge up to New York City and worked at Ogilvy and Mather for a number of years.
Well-known shop.
Yep. And one of my partners at Ogilvy and Mather, his name was Colin Lang, and that's how Monaco Lang got started. So it's kind of funny.
You were cooking while you were at Ogilvy?
Yeah. I mean, you know, Ogilvy and Mather is an amazing organization. We were always encouraged to do freelance work, and because it really kind of helps develop different angles of who you are, and it helps you work from a client service perspective. So, you know, we were working together. We had a great partnership together, and you know, here we are, 13 or so years later.
Wow. Okay.
And Monaco Lang was born, and so that, and then we still have time for me to talk about Quantum Lead and how I got into that.
Yes, absolutely.
So
We have some time.
so that was really based on my experience with coaching. When Monaco Lang, when Monaco Lang first started, we brought on a couple of amazing coaches, and I remember meeting with the coach I had. His name was Mark Flashen, and I remember meeting with Mark. We'd meet once a week, and he would just blow my mind every time I met with him. And I'm like, where are you getting this stuff? This is like fascinating. So I really started leaning into what he was up to, and over time, working with him, I worked with him for a number of years, and then recently started working with him again. And the stuff that I learned from Mark was the kind of stuff that just I saw real development in who I was as a human being, and the effect I had on my family, and the effect I had on my partners and my business. And I saw really what happened to my business, and my business really started developing. So
that's great. A nice plug for coaching.
Because
I know that certainly two of the people at Quantum Lead who I had the pleasure of meeting, Greta and Jane, are both coaches.
Yeah.
So
Jane isn't. She's a coach, and she's
a psychologist.
Yes.
Right.
She's she's a licensed psychotherapist, and also she is a licensed social worker, and she's licensed in mindfulness-based stress reduction.
Yeah.
So she's a unique kind of coach.
Wow. So you've got a whole team of Quantum Lead, you, John, Jane, and Greta, and you all work together when you're doing the peer.
Yeah, I think that's one of the fun things about how we work is, John, we call him Yanni, so, he's Greek, and John is a serial entrepreneur, and he has run divisions of PepsiCo and Sara Lee, and he wrote a book on entrepreneurship, so he brings that sort of entrepreneurial spirit into the room. I bring my communications and brand development.
And we're going to have to stop because we're going to have to end.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
I don't want to...
Gosh, you get me started.
No, I know, but I don't want to end without saying thank you. It was great. I'm so happy that I had the pleasure of meeting you and asked you to come onto the show to talk about Quantum Lead and Monaco Lang. So thank you very much for being here. I hope you enjoyed it.
Sure, it was great. Yeah,
good.
Thanks.
And thank you all for coming and spending 28 minutes with us. Good night.